Hi, I'm Sarah Jaffa. I'm a GP at Wellspring Surgery, which is in Barton Hill, inner city Bristol. We've been involved in SSEs for quite a few years now, and we've done a lot of very straightforward audits, which have proved to be really good quality improvement projects. So the way that the student actually came to us was often because they'd actually proposed an audit themselves. They had something in mind and they'd asked the Department of Primary Care whether they had any practices who might be interested in facilitating this audit for them, and then the Primary Care Department would contact me and say, would we? And the sort of things the student came up with were looking at DMARDs in rheumatoid arthritis as an audit to see how well we were monitoring their bloods, for example. Other one was osteoporosis and steroid usage, and then that led on to whether they were on bisphosphonates or not. We've done a lot of these sort of straightforward projects. Another one that a student proposed to me last year, completely off her own bat, was looking at what proportion of our type 2 diabetics had their high blood pressure adequately controlled to NICE guidelines. And this particular student actually had done a graphic design degree beforehand, and what she wanted to do was produce a leaflet of advice for patients for managing their blood pressure and telling them how important it was with diabetes. So lots of different subjects covered. So in terms of our student that we had last year for the audit on diabetes and their blood pressure control, what actually happened practically was that Vicky contacted me. We agreed to take the project ahead. We then had to meet with the deadline of March in order to go through a form which says that she's looked at the ethical side of things, that she's discussed things with me as her supervisor. And that was literally a 15-minute telephone conversation with her running through what her plans would be for her July project, and me checking that there wouldn't be any ethical considerations, and also helping her to sort of focus in a little bit on a smaller area because she'd chosen a rather wide area, which I thought was going to be too difficult in a 3-week audit. The next step was that she came to meet us all at the practice in July. We also got our IT person at the practice to ensure that she had a computer login because she was going to need to be doing searches. And then I had an hour's meeting with her running through what she was planning to do. That hour's meeting I did actually in my own time when I had no surgery, but then because the practice sees this as a practice income, I was able to take time back in lieu for that hour's meeting that I'd had. And then she got started really. She spoke to our IT manager and practice manager about doing searches and started searching all of our type 2 diabetics, looking at their blood pressure measurements, looking at the frequency of their recall visits to our diabetic nurse, and then got into the work of analysis of the data. She was a particularly self-motivated student, but I found that in practice most of them are, and all it required was a mid-session meeting with me, which again lasted only about an hour, before she then reassured me that everything was going fine for her, and she then spent less time in the practice, based at home, analysing her data. In that time, because she was a graphic design graduate initially, she was able to produce a really good leaflet. And then her project came to an end. I did contact her to check that everything was fine, and she assured me that it was. And then towards the end of August, beginning of September, in came her project, which was for me to mark. That does take a few hours. It depends on how many you've marked before, but I'd probably allow 2 to 3 hours marking time for the average project. Reading it through, making comments, and then uploading the results of my marks to Blackboard. So several months later, once Vicky had come back from some of her further flung placements, she came back to present her findings to us, and we got the whole practice team together with the nurse and several doctors, and she gave us a very to the point and brief 10-minute PowerPoint presentation, highlighting our conclusions, talking about the problems of getting diabetics back for review, talking about the problems of compliance with medication, and giving us our results, which did show quite a lot of room for improvement, and this has actually led to direct changes to our recall process, and we're now moving more to a process of recalling people in the month of their birthday in an effort to basically firm up on systems. So this was an example of a student getting involved in something that we needed to do anyway for quality improvement, that she was extremely self-directed with, was a fantastic resource. She was a nice, bright, enthusiastic person to have around the practice for 3 weeks. So what we tend to get paid for these projects, there are fixed projects for audits, and that's a sum of £430 or so, and that I do find covers the time that management, IT and GPs will put into it perfectly well. If you've got a more involved SSC, which is going to involve a lot more teaching, either from community workers, ancillary workers or GPs, then you can actually put in a claim to the university for the extra time that will require as a proposal, and that is often met. So that's another way of making sure that it's adequately remunerated. In summary, I would say that SSCs provide a brilliant chance to do something different, do something exciting, to explore your own passion if you've got an area of special interest. But even if not, and it's probably especially if not, to help get students to help us with our quality improvement practices, and it's really a win-win situation.